Hi, my name is Takura Changwa. I'm 39 years of age, born in Masringa. Family moved to Bulawayo, where I grew up, and went to primary school and high school. I am an architect by profession. It took me 7 years of study, or 6 to 7 years of study at Wits University in Johannesburg. It's quite a journey, but also it can be quite rewarding because you get to see the fruits of your labor. So, my typical day at work. There's different types. I'll start with just the typical, probably most boring type of day is one where you spend your day at the office in front of a computer, drawing. I draw on computer-aided design softwares. We use programs like SketchUp, which is very good, or Autodesk Revit, those kind of CAD softwares. The architects of the past used to draw a lot by hand, which is something that I can do, but I don't necessarily need to do because it's much more efficient to draw off of computer-aided design. So, on those days, you spend your day, in some, a portion of it is administration, depending on the stage of a project, because there's a life cycle of a project. If you are in the early stages of design of the project, you spend it doing, sort of sketch designs. Maybe you might be making physical models or something of that project. And then when you get to a construction phase, you're mostly working at construction drawings, which are very technical drawings, technical specifications. It's essentially we create manuals to build buildings, but manuals that are very detailed. That is a typical day. The more fun typical days are ones where, depending on where your site is, my current site is in Knysna. It's actually just up on the hill. You won't be able to see it, but it's up on the hill there. I'm working on a large house there, very fancy, interesting house for a very interesting client. So on days like today, when I get to travel from Johannesburg, where I'm based, to Knysna in the Western Cape, those are the more fun days where you come and you look at all the construction that's happening on site, and you make sure that they're going according to your building plans, and so that depends on the life cycle, where you are in that life cycle of the project. Okay, so the next question is, what professions have I done in the past, and what countries have I worked in? I haven't really worked in other professions. I had maybe an aspiration to do something else before. When I was in high school, I've always really had an interest in design and in a creative sort of profession. So when I was in high school, I was also, learning to cook, being a chef, which I actually quite associate with levels of attention to detail and design that you have in certain types of architecture. So I would have, I had two choices in my mind when I made the decision to become an architect. I was either going to go down the route of trying to become a chef, or be an architect. And then aspirationally, I've actually, through understanding this field and understanding my needs in creativity, I aspire to also get into product design. So I guess it's not really careers that I've been in, but it's careers that I'd be quite interested in. Maybe a little diversion of a career that I've been in 2006, in the middle of my studies, when I had just graduated with my bachelor's degree, I got a chance to have an internship at a fairly big firm that was working on exchange node architecture and sort of development around that. So they designed down from furniture all the way up to the train stations and trains. So I worked at practice there, and I had been placed in an urban design department, which is something that I felt quite strongly about. I did quite like that. So it's another scale of design. I think in terms of creativity, you can sort of slide into different parts of this field. You can get into different scales of it. I mean, someone could sit down and design little models. Someone could sit down and design like large airports. You could design pieces of furniture, or you could design food. So it's all in the creative industry, and it's stuff that I think I have a connection with and probably an interest in. So the question is, what education did I need to get into the field that I'm currently in, which is architecture? If I take it back to high school, one of the requirements that we had was to have mathematics within what you're studying. And sometimes they say art, but I don't think those things are actually they actually determine whether or not you can be a good architect. I think there's more of a spatial awareness that you find is probably more required, and because it's a field of creativity, if you are interested in it, you will just simply grow and grow the more you immerse yourself in that kind of field. Anyway, moving on from that, I had to study. So the way the degree was set up is in portions that you do 3 years of an undergraduate study, where I received my Bachelor of Architectural Studies at Wits University. And then for you to proceed to do an honors, you have to have at least 6 months of an internship experience within the field, which I did. I did a year. Most people do a year. Some people do 6 months, and then they travel for another 6 months. So I did 6 months at a very, very good architect, one of actually the famous architects of South Africa now, Peter Rich, who incidentally was one of my lecturers, and then he eventually arranged for me to have that internship with some of his friends and colleagues in France. So then, post that, so I did the 6 month stint with him, and I did a 6 month stint in France. And then I came back and I studied honors in architecture, which is a year degree. So then that's the second graduation. And then afterwards you do a thesis, in which you do your master's, in which you do a thesis. And that's how you complete it. That's the degree. But still, you're not done. You're not a registered architect. For you now to be registered as an architect, you're expected to work and sort of put in certain hours in skills, like learning different facets of architecture under a registered architect, which I did. And that would take you 2 years, and then you go and write board exams. So that's not a short degree. Definitely not a short degree. It's something that really does take a lot of effort and passion. But anything that you're passionate about, you will do well. And anything that you work so hard for, you will do well. Okay, so what are 3 big themes that I think would affect my industry in the future? One that is already affecting this industry is a big one, which is sustainability. This kind of industry tends to sort of incur a lot of waste, be it through the process of creating or the way the end product that you have created operates within its environment. And it's become very, very much apparent that we are in a dire need to be resourceful and to not be wasteful, where you have the ability to save, the resources that we have for our planet. And I think every single architect needs to be responsible for that. Building materials and technology. Technology has allowed us to shape the way in which we make architecture. At some point, the technology was creating a brick, certain sized, standardized brick, and that was high technology. And lately, we are breaking away from those kind of technologies. You get very exciting developments now where you can design your building on computer, you can test it out through your computer softwares, your technology, and then have it printed. You have a machine that prints your architecture. So the relevance of a brick has been, demoted by the use of technology. It's extremely important to always be aligned with the technologies that are available. Wellness is a big theme. And not only that, where we've positioned these built environments. At some point, there was this urgency to create built environments that are, densified in the city and almost devoid of nature. But as time has gone, it's started to become apparent that we are not separate from nature, but we are part of it. And we've used architecture in a way to shield us from nature, instead of us being one with nature. So who do I most admire? I don't know. I don't like to put specific individuals on pedestals that way, but I do like to put traits of people who've done things, who are successful, that I admire. One thing that I tend to find really, really inspiring is people who have sort of an unwavering motion towards achieving what they want to achieve, despite maybe the general flow of things. You will find that this field has got sort of two segments of it. There are people who simply just want to fill a need for I suppose getting paid, and they would do whatever they have to do just for that, and almost they skip the obligation of making architecture that works, making architecture that is responsible. So I have a great admiration of certain architects, and not just architects, but rather visionaries. People who have a vision, and they may be told by the world that this is not going to work, or they are doing things in an inefficient way, whatever, but their vision is maintained through their perseverance. And that's something that I find extremely